What's up, everybody? What is up, everybody? What is up, everybody? All right. Yeah. All right, we are 691, y'all. We are at 691. Go. Share the link, y'all. Interesting discussion today. Y'all. So go ahead and share that link. We are going to be talking about the psychology of being blacklisted. You know, and I have I think I'm gonna pull up the Twitter comments. So follow me at Chris Prolific, and you get to get first dibs on stuff like this. Yeah, we'll pull those up. um, because I'm going to use this as I'm going to pull these up. I don't know what I don't know what these comments are going to say. So it's going to be interesting. I've got a bunch of notifications. It looks like a bunch of people were involved in this little focus group. And the question was, uh, uh, why, in your opinion, has Bill Goldberg developed such a negative reputation amongst the IWC? So I'll check the notifications and I'll read the responses up. And of course, ask Doc, and I'll take your responses too. So we are going to talk about the psychology of being blacklisted, um, and why. Like, what was it about Bill Goldberg that caused him to be viewed so negatively? Where'd that come from? Where'd it come from, man? And so we shall talk about that. But let's first go in class for today. Class has started. So being blacklisted. What does that even mean? What does blacklisted even mean? So blacklisting is historically defined as being on a list of persons whose opinions or associations were deemed politically inconvenient or commercially troublesome, making it hard for them to get work, or even worse, causing them to get fired. So historically, blacklisting actually, it from a historical standpoint, it goes back to even like 17th century. It goes way back. And then even from a 19th century standpoint, it started to become a little bit more popular. And then Hollywood around like the 50s and 60s, it started to become huge when it came to blacklisting. Even from a government perspective, even before that, even in the 40s, there's a lot of stories, and we'll get to one big one when it comes over the past 100 years as far as blacklisting is concerned. And so historically it was known for, hey, you're basically ostracized from public, your perception, your reputation is damaged, and we're going to blacklist you from uh, uh, movies, from education, from a religious standpoint, even from a governmental standpoint. So it was in different areas of where people would get blacklisted. And like I said, there are many different stories of people getting blacklisted. So blacklisted is commonly more known as a process of shunning, sometimes harassing, and excluding an individual, usually for perceived misbehavior. So that's the important part. Perceived misbehavior. Perceived misbehavior. And that's based on the perception of who or what or why. Especially from a social media perspective, blacklisting has become such a weaponized tactic in many people, especially if you have a certain type, a certain mind of people. And we talked about the de-individualization of going into a bigger thought, even if it's negative, if it's more collaborative and collective, people are more prone to accept it. And so this was what happens. I talked about this with cancel culture too. And even from a blacklisting perspective, this happens quite often because of that presence, because of that thought process that comes with just people in general, but specifically modern day social media society. Very quick to blacklist people, very quick to say your views don't agree with mine, or uh, uh, one person came up with a cool idea, or a good enough idea, or a reasonable enough idea in their minds for people to tag on to it. And then that became a snowball for other people to be trendy and fall in line with that. And that's where we get to groupthink as well. And because people are falling into the snowball of, oh, wait, we're not supposed to like Goldberg, that's where groupthink comes in. because the person outside of the groupthink, the person outside of the de-individualization, they are the ones who are now ostracized because the thought that led into this kind of snowball into this just imbalanced type of thinking, it now becomes in certain circles like the biggest voice of a certain circle. And if you want to contradict that voice, then you'll have an onslaught of de-individualization, dehumanization. I've talked about that before too, disinhibition. You have those people commenting on, okay, well, you're a mark just because you said, why is Goldberg blacklisted? Right. So if you're the one who's trying to counter that reasonably now and in a certain space, which the space is the IWC, then that person, even the most reasonable person, becomes the person with the less biggest voice, and so therefore you have that person now being a victim or being uh, uh, being very very vulnerable to backlash. That's the reason why a lot of times people you have like a lot of negative just mess in comment sections, but a lot of times you have people who are more individual when it comes to like giving compliments. I've heard this. I've people have said this to me a lot as far as like, you know, the comments were just crazy. I was about to say something, but I knew that it's hard to even get into their brain. Like it's even hard to rationalize with the IWC. So I didn't comment, but I do want to let you know that I really value your work and I thought the show was great. Stuff like I'll get stuff like that all the time, individually though. But when it comes to like an onslaught, I hardly ever, maybe one less than 1% of any of my direct messages were negative. But when it comes to like comments and stuff like that, from a group perspective, it's yeah, this is probably stupid if I address this individually, and this is the only person. I'm the only one thinking about this. Let me see if other people think. Okay, there's a couple other people. Okay, that's cool enough. Let's just kind of start the snowball. And so because the snowball starts to grab others in between, then it's the cool thing to do, which is the reason why a lot of times people just boo Goldberg or just say, yeah, we don't like him because I'm not quite sure, but people don't like him, so I don't like him either. And interestingly enough, what we saw in Providence, Goldberg chants, he was cheered, people loved him, and that was just a part of the show to cheer Goldberg because it wasn't in a smarky crowd. It wasn't in a crowd that wanted to put themselves over. It wasn't it was in a crowd that was more appreciative of characters, and it wasn't and enjoyed the presentation of the product instead of what I've talked about before, how the crowd oftentimes in pro wrestling nowadays want to be the characters and want to barge in the door of the writer's room and say, hey, where's our part of the show? Where's our part inside the show today? And that happens every single week. And so when it comes to Goldberg, we see that. We see a IWC versus like crowd version. Same thing with Jey Uso. IWC's, oh man, he's mid, blah, blah, blah. Then you get into the crowd and people are eating all over the place. And so that's where like that blacklist culture comes from. And that's the reason why, even from a studies perspective, even from a research perspective, a lot of researchers aren't think blacklisting is actually a terrible idea. And with one researcher saying that it has many ethical problems and should not be condoned, and as it is akin to vigilantism without due process, damaging the blacklisted, whether justified or not, and degrading to the blacklisters and bystanders themselves. So, of course, when someone has a true wrongdoing, right, it comes with consequences. Like, for instance, a lot of for many years, Hulk Hogan, even it's more cancel culture than blacklisted now. Hogan was blacklisted by the WWE for a while, for a few years, because of the racial situation. Uh, so there is some true wrongdoing there, which merits consequences. But nowadays, I've seen it. People are comparing Goldberg being canceled or blacklisted with Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, why are you even making that comparison? That is just the most ridiculous comparison that anybody can make. Like, there was real life stuff that blacklisted Hulk Hogan, but at the same time, Goldberg, you have your own personal biases, negative biases toward him. Okay, that's your thing. That's how you feel. But comparing the reason why Goldberg is blacklisted to the reason why Hogan is blacklisted is preposterous. But when you deal with the culture that I've explained in many classes come with the IWC, it's not a surprise. And so, yes, the true wrongdoing comes with consequences. However, oftentimes blacklisting, it takes precedence over a fair due process and an increased opportunity of groupthink, like I said before. And when groupthink deals with people just reaching decisions that are unfair, unwise, and unrealistic. And that happens oftentimes when it comes to the culture of the IWC, specifically when it comes to blacklisting people. And I trust me, I've even experienced this to a degree within the past, few months, which I've talked about before, and which is laughable, but at the same time, I can speak from experience of what that even means, and the unjust, unwise, unrealistic, unreasonable, not a fair due process. And oftentimes it's the cool thing to do to blacklist. As a result, and again, the due process is very unfair, and it's very unreasonable. But it becomes a fad. It becomes a cool thing to do. If you're not a part of this, you're a part of the out group. It is an in group, out group dynamic that comes oftentimes with blacklisting, and it does cause a lot, and it does result into some really damaging consequences, which include difficulty of finding work. It also includes damage to someone's reputation, experiencing humiliating treatment, which in turn causes emotional damage, denial of opportunities, and damage to even someone's career, even if the blacklist reasons are proven false. Studies show there's been a lot of times people, even proven false, it's damaged their reputation so much that it's led to just an inability to reestablish their career. So there's really interesting examples about that, and we'll get into one big one here soon. So how does one recover from being blacklisted? So oftentimes the first step in blacklist recovery, especially if the reasons are just merely subjective, or it's some type of hypocritical, moral, or critical high ground that is very unsubstantiated, or someone did something wrong that's very petty, not on a major scale. But once you get all these IWC voices on a major scale, it absolutely causes it causes this really unhealthy, just weed like growth of opinions. And it's just a really just a really unfortunate place to be in. But as far as the recovery process is concerned, one of the first things to do when it comes to the recovery is to uh, uh, even with the proven false, emotionally imbalanced, you get endorsements from reputable and respected people. It's one of the first orders of business to reestablish yourself or reestablish your reputation after being blacklisted. And offering help, if you're someone who's well respected, offering help to restore someone's reputation is both noble, and it also presses through social and ethical barriers that are involved with being blacklisted. So I'll even give an example. The Drew stuff. It was reported someone from backstage said that they received information that Drew was going to win. Sent that to me as a reporter. I reported. I'm just a middleman. Guess who got the brunt of that? The person who let me know backstage definitely get the brunt of it because no one knows who that is. But simply because I'm the reporter, I got the brunt of it. And then the Vince McMahon thing too. Someone very, very close to Vince McMahon, talking relationship with Vince McMahon, gave me information, sent me a text, and I got backlash from that from being the middleman. I just report what I'm told. And so, but interestingly enough, on both cases, I had multiple people texting me from, I had office people texting me, and I had people backstage texting me saying, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that, you're going through this. I'm sorry that you had to be, I'm sorry that this had to happen, blah, blah. And yes, yes, they want to help reestablish reputations, even people giving me scoops to reestablish my reputation. But at the same time, they don't want they don't want to make it public because it can compromise their reputation. And so it does. There are people who are willing to step in and say, "Hey, I got you. I'm here with you. I'm sorry that you're going through this," which is cool, and that is a way to reestablish. However, at the same time, people are looking for, and crazy, especially when it comes to the IWC. The IWC, you are as good as your last thing that you do when it comes to the IWC. That's the reason why my reporting isn't spoilers anymore. One, because I just didn't have the time to be following so much to make sure the spoilers are correct. And I was literally double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking. I remember the Austin stuff, man. I remember I went on a pretty long streak of not getting any scoops incorrect. And so I remember the Austin one. I was like, all right, man, I want to continue my streak. And I kept texting backstage, is Austin there? Is Austin there? Is Austin there? Is Austin there? I kept getting nope, 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 nope. Even when the hologram was coming on, people were like, okay, well, this is Austin. And I got ridiculed for that. Well, and it's crazy because of all the spot on accurate scoops that I gave. It's crazy how the IWC works. Oh, guess what? This one possible thing incorrect. Now we're going to flip the table on them, and that's crazy. That's crazy work. But again, that's the IWC for you. But I remember the Austin thing, and I was like, all right, is Austin there? Is Austin there? Because I didn't want to get it wrong. But that the pressure that comes with that, for the return that comes with that, it's not even worth it, man. Not worth it whatsoever. Because I told you before, I've said this many times on the show, I take great pride in what I do and everything that I do. All jobs, everything that I do, I take great pride in doing it. And that is something that was really, and that continues to be really important to me. And so it definitely caused an adjustment from being blacklisted from reporting, but I have been able to recuperate my reputation by doing more. Like, I got some great connects backstage. I'll text people backstage, say, "Hey, what's the reaction here? What are backstage saying there? What's the reaction here?" I just texted someone a few hours ago about how was the backstage, handling the Goldberg segment. Got a response, reported that, and so it's one of those things that making the adjustments and having tough skin and definitely having the ability to make the adjustments and realize like I'm on a recovery. It's going to take time. It's going to take rebuilding trust from a public eye, but at the same time, it's worth it, and it's worth continuing to go through it, and then understanding your worth too. And that's a big thing too. Yes, it's important to get endorsed by people. That's one of the first steps of recovery, uh, because the reputation, whether it's substantiated or not, oftentimes within the IWC it's unsubstantiated. With Goldberg, is I would argue that it's unsubstantiated, but at the same time, when someone is particularly blacklisted, having that endorsement from respected people, also getting to the point of understanding that your reputation is damaged, even if it's unfair, and oftentimes it is. But having that ability to persevere, having that ability to get that endorsement, and understanding that people are going to potentially not be as close to you as they used to be because of that reputation, even if it's unsubstantiated. And that's something else I've experienced in the pro wrestling sphere of inside reporting. And it's like, okay, so uh, for everybody, it's like, man, I'm scared to continue. Versus, man, you're a solid dude. I really like you. I got you. Let's kind of kind of cause a shift in the reporting, and that's a win-win for the both of us. And I think, and now, personally, I'm in a space where, I'm getting paid the same to not think about I'm getting paid the same to not focus and worry about, is this spoiler going to happen, what I mean? And because you have to understand who is the public that you're targeting. When someone's blacklisted in different areas, they're targeting that specific. Oftentimes, yes, there's a wider public, reputation, perhaps, but at the same time, like, in this particular case with me and the IWC reporting stuff, the IWC know, and a lot of wrestlers, but the IWC knows me, and the pro wrestling bubble knows about my reporting. My wife doesn't know or care. My kids doesn't care. My clinical colleagues don't know or care about any of this. My collegiate, my college colleagues, my college professor, university colleagues don't know or care about any of this. None of this, like, oh, Drew Mac, he incorrectly reported Drew McIntyre. That is completely just shrink wrapped into a very small portion of my life. And so if you understand that, then that helps you realize that, then that helps you be more determined to recover from a damaged reputation. Goldberg, for instance, knows that, yes, he's blacklisted by the IWC, but the IWC is such a shrink wrapped representation of pro wrestling fandom as a whole. Like the kids that they're marketing, the kids that are doing Yeet don't care about the IWC saying that Jey Uso's mid. The children in the front row who is marking out for Goldberg and that he's going and hugging don't care about no daggone Twitter post. And so understanding that dynamic is very, very important on the road to recovering from being blacklisted. That's very, very important. Let me give you a popular example of recovering from being blacklisted. So there was a group called the Hollywood 10. And so they were basically blacklisted from the film and movie industry as a result of refusing to answer questions dealing with whether they had communist affiliation or association. And so they end up getting jail time, end up having to go in front of the Congress. Like it became like really, really serious stuff as far as the penalty and the consequences that they experienced. However, yes, although there was a lot of people who weren't able to recover from that in the Hollywood 10, there were a couple of people that were really able to recover. One of them called his name is Dalton Trumbo. And Dalton Trumbo, he actually was able to have a pseudonym. And he had a pseudonym that actually helped him start producing more content, more writing more scripts. And that actually led him under the pseudonym to get a Academy Award in 1956, about 9 years after that blacklisting, which again, like I said, it takes time. There's a lot of instances where it just takes time, but you gotta keep persevering if you know that this is something that you're passionate about, and this is something that you are going to continue to push through and push through the haters. You know your gift, you know your abilities, you know your talents, pushing through the haters, pushing through the people who are unfairly blacklisting you. 9 years later, he won an Academy Award for Best Screenplay. And interestingly enough, a few years after that, he started to write. The blacklist started to fade down, and eventually he started to write screenplays under his real name again. And so that actually was a successful recovery from blacklist, becoming a pseudonym, winning an Academy Award after being blacklisted within a 9-year span, and then that causing his reputation to be strengthened and increased because, again, the public was able to benefit from his talents. And similar to what I just said, as far as the public or your target or your audience, oftentimes, I always say this, and I've said this on this show before, oftentimes the IWC and certain audiences, they would make, if the IWC was a person, this person would make an absolutely horrible spouse, because it is not a healthy relationship at all if every single time, if the only thing that your relationship is based on is the last thing that you did for them beneficially, Now, of course, like I said, proper wrongdoing, there's definitely patterns that relationships form of people just dropping the ball and people not really spending time to put in their all or to really work on certain things that's been addressed. Now that's completely separate to what I'm trying to say. My point in this is, if your relationship is completely based on recency bias, it's a very unhealthy relationship. And oftentimes people, reporters and screenwriters and actors and athletes, those people are at the mercy of their last thing that they did to the audience. Even if they have a very, very strong body of work, even if they're a trusted, figure in the industry, oftentimes the audience, specifically the IWC, when it comes to reputation and people, and unfortunately, they predicate their judgment on someone based on the last thing that they did, or what the majority of emotionally unbalanced people say about this person, and they don't want, and their rational behavior, going back to the de-individualization, their rational thoughts start to take a back seat for the bigger voice. And even if they try to challenge it, and this comes with groupthink as well, even if they try to challenge it, they're the ones who gets ostracized by their rational thought process. It's a really wacky, just kind of whirlwind type of mentality in society and culture that one has to deal with when it comes to that specifically. So when it comes to blacklisting, man, it's really an unfortunate thing that happens. However, like I said, know yourself, be confident in yourself, and understand that, hey, man, if you're good at what you do, and if you're resilient, and if you have confidence in yourself, and you're not dealing with insecurities or working on minimizing them to make them extinct, man, like getting blacklisted is a mountain to climb over and a huge hurdle. However, don't let it stop you, man. Don't let it stop you. Everybody makes mistakes. No one bats 1,000. If you really are talented at what you do, and especially if the blacklisting's unsubstantiated. Now, if you know, did something very unethical and immoral, yes, I mean, rightfully so, blacklisted. I mean, going back to the Hogan thing, the racial stuff, yes, he was blacklisted for a few years from WWE, justifiably. However, when it comes to a lot of this blacklisting, when it comes regarding the IWC nowadays, very unsubstantiated, very subjective, very biased, and it's really, really important for people to understand, stay resilient, stay in the fight, keep going, and you got this as far as continuing to press through, continuing to press through your talent. Don't let a oftentimes vocal minority pretending to be a vocal majority impede you and diminish your security levels to stop pressing through and continuing to excel and perfect your craft. Cool. All right. Before we go, let's figure out these. Let's figure out these answers, man. Let's see what these answers say. So let's go. This is going to be interesting to see. All right. Let's see what the answers say. All right, let's do this. All right. Question for you all to assist with my psychology class tonight on PMP. Why, in your opinion, has Bill Goldberg developed such a negative reputation amongst the IWC? All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. Let's see what comments we got here. All right, we got, I think Brett's experience with him is, I think Brett's experience with him has influenced the fans' thoughts on Goldberg for the most part. Yeah, I think the Brett experience has potentially. However, there was definitely a span of time that the WWE was very positively. They looked at him very positively going into his debut. So the Rock Spear, the Rock feud, the feud with Christian, like those feuds, I mean, really, really helped Goldberg, and it helped go, and it was very positive. I mean, his reaction, his ovation was very, very positive. It seemed as if, I mean, I started noticing boos during the championship run. when he first got the title, the World Heavyweight Championship, the fans started to turn on him. It definitely seems as if they didn't like the meteoric rise. But the crazy thing is that meteoric rise was his bread and butter in WCW, not so much in the WWE. And again, it shows, man, hey, sometimes people are going to like you in this space. Sometimes people are going to not like you in this space. Hey, that doesn't make you more or less of a person. It just makes you successful in certain areas and not as successful in other areas, man. Goldberg is a hard hitting killing machine. That's his gimmick. That's been his gimmick. Anything other than that takes him away from his gimmick. Still to this day, as much as Goldberg started to get flack, and it's crazy because as much as Goldberg started to get negative flack from the WWE, that 86-second win against Brock Lesnar, that still received one of the biggest and most thunderous ovations positively that Goldberg has ever received. I would say 1998, in July of 1998, when he won his first world championship on that episode of Nitro, that's probably the most thunderous reaction that he got. But that, 16 years later, that he received that, 18 years later, it was in 2016, that he got that ovation from the fans in was it Toronto? I think it was Survivor Series of 2016. That's going to bug me. I think it was Toronto. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Toronto's usually a very smarky crowd too. I think it was in Toronto. That's my final answer. Yes, indeed. It was in Toronto. Yes. So that Toronto crowd is usually a smarky crowd, but they went over for Goldberg because it was a surprise, it was a shock, and it was a great way for Goldberg to rebuild his reputation, man. So, I think the Brett thing, that could have been a factor, but he actually started to gain positive reputation after that. We got a comment that says, because the last two times he had a run in the WWE, he took the championship off KO when it wasn't needed and then killed the aura and essentially the character of the Fiend, two of the most beloved wrestlers amongst the IWC. I think that's a fair argument as far as why the IWC isn't it isn't receptive of him and why he has a bad reputation. However, like this goes along with what I was saying before, as far as like the IWC is really amongst the most unforgiving group of people that I've ever seen in my life. Incredibly unforgiving. Yes, those two things arguably wasn't the best idea. I would argue that beating Kevin Owens was a good idea. Probably not amongst the IWC, but from a business standpoint, you had what could have been, or what was rumored, which was Jericho and Kevin Owens, versus what actually did happen, which was Brock and Goldberg. Now, if you're the owner, if you're Vince McMahon and that time, I think that was 2017, I think it was. If you're Vince McMahon in 2017, you're looking at WrestleMania marquee, and you're still not depending on deals and expectation that is going to sell out, and you're still having that old school mentality of, we got to get a marquee match here to sell tickets. You as a business person, are you going to choose Jericho Owens or Goldberg Brock Lesnar? I think that's a no-brainer when it comes to business. And so, again, I get it, but the IWC needs to think business as well. We got another one that says, because he's overstaying his welcome and can and can I think only wrestle a 5-minute match, just retire already. I think that about all the older wrestlers. So I guess my pushback to this was, what do you think about the Undertaker? What do you think about Jericho? What do you think about AJ Styles? I mean, like, what do you mean by older wrestlers over 45? I mean, Cena's pushing 50. He's what, 47 now, 48. And so, what do you mean by older wrestlers? One, and Goldberg is known mostly by wrestling 5-minute or matches or less. That's why he got to become a Hall of Famer, because most of his matches were under 5 minutes. And that drew, it was an anomaly. That's what made Goldberg such an anomaly, because you're so used to longer matches. However, Goldberg was an anomaly. He only had 5-minute matches. Whoa, this is different. This is super different than anything I've ever saw. So that actually captured the interest of the audience, which it still captured the interest of the audience when he beat Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series in 2016. It still worked. It still worked. Even when he beat Ziggler at SummerSlam, it still worked. So it's like going back to the basics with Goldberg is really the way to go, because he's never been known as a catch-as-catch-can, longer match type of guy. Never. His bread and butter and what makes Goldberg are shorter matches. Very high impact, very short fused, ticking time bomb, stick of dynamite. That's Goldberg. That's Goldberg matches. However, when you start to prolong it, that actually diminishes the mystique of Bill Goldberg. And you don't want to diminish the mystique of Bill Goldberg. That's a horrible idea. And so the 5-minute match thing is something that actually made him. That was the identity of Bill Goldberg. Because idolatry is hard to maintain when we see our idols weakened. I'm not too sure what that means. He ended the career of the greatest wrestlers ever. Can't wrestle, can't cut a promo. Again, never been known for wrestling. He has a catchphrase that says, "You're next," that's giving him that has given him millions of dollars. So can't cut a promo. If he has a catchphrase that's giving him a lot of money, again, cutting promos, whether it's good or not, that means nothing if he's able to get a catchphrase that has caught for close to 30 years now. 20, what he started, 97. So that was 28 years ago. So, I mean, nearly 30 years catchphrase that's caught on, and it's been working. It's giving him a lot of money. So that would be my pushback to that. Pure jealousy. A large swath of 90s wrestling fans were involved in sports at some point or were in the gym. Goldberg was relatable as he was sold as former NFL. Today's crowd is not involved in sports or the gym. To them, Goldberg is just another jock. Same way they saw Roman. That's an interesting point, actually. Looks like they got a couple of positive reactions with that too. It looks like people think, looks like people agree with that. So, I mean, that's a fair point, man. Really, I mean, the musclehead person isn't really today's wrestler. They're not today's wrestler. However, they're the wrestler that pulls in the marquee, man, for sure. You seem frustrated with Vince's sarcasm, LRI yesterday, Doctor. That is completely untrue, man. I thought Vince's sarcasm on Legion of Raw was amazing, and that's the reason why I got right into it. It was improv. I got it, and I jumped right into the improv with Vince. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, you can't take this stuff seriously, man. I mean, you just can't. I mean, that's my take on it. You can't take this stuff seriously. So if I'm on the spot, basically going into improv about pro wrestling and pro wrestling matches, that's fun. I mean, anything that churns my brain. As a psychology doctor, I look for brain churning things to do, and it's funny and it's fun and it's exciting, and so that's the reason why I pick up on stuff pretty easy. And so I picked up right on it when he did it, and that's when he went right into it. And I got very, very positive shout outs with it. Vince even told me afterwards, "Thank you for doing that." And he said that was fun, and I said, "Yeah, it was a lot of fun." He said he wanted to try something different, and so yeah, it was fun. I liked it, man. That was actually that was definitely one of the most memorable Legion of Rawls that we've ever had in the. How long has it been now? almost 5 years that we've been doing Legion of Raw. So yeah, so it was lots of fun. He beat KO. He beat The Fiend. He nearly injured The Undertaker. I mean, again, the Undertaker thing, both of them, it was kind of like a two-way street. Let's see, he's got a comment. The comment is and the Brett situation. Okay. So it's a compilation of things in that area. Okay. Because he's the Milli Vanilli of wrestling. He has no talent. He can't wrestle. He can't cut a promo. Everything about him was smoke and mirrors to make him seem like something he wasn't. Now, again, based on who, though? Definitely not based on the vocal majority. This is definitely more of a vocal minority, and the IWC is a vocal minority. Sometimes the vocal minority has a strong enough presence to cause some people to reconsider or to move the needle in some way, or shift the direction in some way. But oftentimes they don't. Most of the time they don't when it comes to the vocal minority. And Goldberg is definitely not the catch as catch can Canadian destroyer, modern day spot fest wrestler, and that's not his lane, and he's not, and he shouldn't, he won't, he hasn't. There's a couple matches that he had that were lengthy, and I didn't think that was a good idea, but it's like that's not your lane, so don't make it your lane to appease a type of crowd. I mean, that just be authentically you. Goldberg wrestling long matches is antithetical to what he's used to being doing. What made him Goldberg is not competing in long matches. So why would you compete in long matches? So when it comes to the allure of Goldberg, like, give me more mystique by the less is more approach. And stuff like that when it comes to Goldberg actually helps his reputation more than hurts it. In a word, psychology. Interested to know what that means. What part of psychology? But yeah, those are the responses. That's actually pretty cool responses. All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, what do you have to say? PNP Nation, it is now time for the question cue. Yes. Let's ring the bell first. Ring the bell. All right, PNP Nation, what y'all got to say, man? Let me get my gimmick here. There we go. Fell over People's Wrestling Channel. Fell over while I was walking my dog the other day. I hurt my back. My shoulder's aching. Any tips on how I can stop the ache or pain? That's actually a good question because my back is hurting profusely right now. Like, I think I pulled a muscle, probably working out, doing one of my routines. I've been pushing. I've been really pushing my workouts, man. And I've been like being mindful, but I got goals. I got to keep these pecs and these guns ablazing, man. And so, yeah, man, it was. I pulled something. I don't remember what it was. I can't even locate. I can't even give you a specific time frame. Ugh. Um, yeah. So I'm looking at responses, which is very interesting here. Yeah. It's just been crazy, man. It's been really unfortunate. So I'm not going to say, hey, take anything. Look, I would say look around and see as far as just like what potential medicine is going to, like pain reliever. Uh, Definitely stretching, not too much though. You don't want to overstretch. Ice packs or heat pads, heat packs, probably heat to loosen up those muscles. Um, but yeah, those are typically general things to help with that. Started going to a man's shed over here today, and I made a bee house. I've also taken up crown green bowling. I'm not sure if you have that over there. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. James, did you see the Chris Van Vliet interview with Steve Blackman? I've heard of it. It's very interesting. I've seen a couple of his videos, and he's very good. You should check him out. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, shout out to Riju, who actually tagged me on Chris Van Vliet's post. He said it was Steve Blackman's first interview since 2007, I think he said. That's actually not true because Steve Blackman's last interview was actually with me about 5 years ago. So actually, I was Steve Blackman's last interview. So it was actually his last interview since like 2020, 2019, somewhere around there. And that was with me. But you know, most it wasn't a malicious intent from Chris. I've met Chris multiple times. Heck, just a sweetheart of a guy. The second time I met him, first time was cool too, but second time, cool. Really chill dude, cool dude. Uh, I'm very very happy of his success, man. Um, couldn't happen to a cooler dude, and I am all for his success, man. Well deserved. That's what happens when you grind. Um, so yeah, but that was incorrect though. So it was me. So I'm definitely all about supporting people, and yeah, man, we'll check it out. My podcast relaunch was unsuccessful. The People's Wrestling Channel says so. That's me done with YouTube forever. Well, um, that is up to you. Oh, this is the you didn't say Axe Doc, but that's a terrible comment though. James, so I don't know what was up last night on Legion of Raw, but the positive stuff saying Raw was good was cringing. I'm not sure if Vince meant that or no. It's funny. Like we didn't think that we would actually work people, but I didn't realize how many people we worked. Like people actually thought that that was for real. Like it was completely improv. Like completely improv. But it was fun though. Stuff like that is exciting. Stuff like that is fun. Stuff like that. You have to understand, man. And I get messages a lot from people. I get it. I get a message from someone, multiple people weekly, to give me shout outs and say, great show and things like that. I get that a lot, which is a blessing. It's total blessing. But it's like, man, there's like the back pain that I experience on a daily basis, especially right now. It's like super, like it's pretty intense right now. My back pain, it's pretty tight. So it feels like someone is just like squeezing my back right now. On top of a a day shift of being a therapist, taking someone's um, absolute just crippling, oftentimes trauma that they're dealing with, taking it and molding it and repairing it and mentally being someone's mental surgeon uh, on a daily basis uh, for a day shift to work all throughout the day. Oftentimes, I do a lot of couples therapy too, and so people don't understand the the exhaustion that comes with being a therapist. So I'm a therapist, and then I have to prep and watch Raw for 2.5 hours, and then review Raw for 60 to 75 ish minutes, sometimes even longer. We're contracted to do 60, but uh, then we get the comments and the questions and stuff like that, and the super chats. We get dozens of super chats, so we answer all the super chats. So by the time that rolls around, it's 12:30 in the morning. Think about how exhausted I am by doing something I absolutely love, which is being a therapist, the mental strain that causes, and then watching Raw while also doing college professor work. So I'm uh, tightening up my curriculum, which I had to build from scratch. I am grading dissertations. I'm answering emails. I'm fine tuning assignments. I'm doing all of those things during the time that I'm watching Raw. So that's more mental energy that's being taken away from me. And then I'm watching Raw, and then I'm taking notes while doing that. So I'm multitasking while watching Raw, and then I have to talk about it for at least an hour. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. So doing that improv was completely a really really cool adjustment to my normal Monday uh, um, schedule of reporting the Raw stuff. So I was all for it. WWE is having all this event, which I love, and a lot of legends are coming back to compete in it. But my question is, why don't they have one for the guys? Um, I guess my answer to that would be because the women's evolution became a thing. The Give Divas a Chance became a thing as far as just how the how the women were depicted for a while within the Divas. They didn't give an opportunity to show their athleticism. And so that ended up having the Divas division become the women's division. And so the advent of the revolution that came with changing the Divas mentality to the going back to women's wrestling. And so I'm fine with that. James Goldberg retiring sadly. What is your favorite Goldberg match and moment? Mine has to be his match with Lesnar, Mania 20. Moment wise, when he slammed the Giant in WCW. I would say that Nitro, I think it was July 6th, 1998. So a couple of days over 27 years ago, man. When he beats Hogan, he beats Scott Hall, and he beats Hogan, and that was his night, man. Held up 2 titles that night, and that was fantastic. What's up, Danimal? I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a permanent blacklist in wrestling. I think wrestlers most of the time can get a second chance in the business. I think it's a very fair take. There's a lot of IWC people who would disagree with you when it comes to Hulk Hogan, but money talks, and he's a sponsor, and he's like, yeah, we'll take you, we'll take you, and he's back in the good graces with WWE now, and so I would say if I would say I would say Benoit is probably the only person who's permanently blacklisted in pro wrestling. There's a lot of people who, well, there's a few. I mean, like if you think of like the dark side, like there's a few, man. Look at those dark side episodes of like people who were like committing uh like childhood uh, essay, like stuff like that. I think that there's a lot of people who, yeah, who are probably permanently blacklisted. I think it's safe to say that they're permanently blacklisted from that, based on that series, which I don't think I've finished. I'm just thinking about that. I don't think I've finished that. I probably need to figure out if I've watched all the episodes. I don't think I have of the last one. I don't think I did. I don't think I watched the Daphne one. There you go. I think I'll watch that now. Watch Goldberg win Saturday after the show's over. Danimal says Seth cashes in, and we don't see the cash in. Not saying that would happen, but hey, look what they did with Kevin Owens and Cody's last December. Yeah, you know what? You can't dismiss that idea. You can't dismiss that idea. It's like, hey, Goldberg wins. Saturday Night Live goes. Saturday Night Main Event goes off, and then all of a sudden YouTube blasts up Seth for all his cashes, and then people are like, what? we couldn't see that on the actual program. What? Mado, thoughts on Tiffy time and Jacob Fatu controversy this week. I'm not too hip to the Stratton stuff. As far as the Fatu stuff, I'm thinking you mean the track with him and Rikishi. Yeah. It's controversial, but I mean, it's definitely not something that would cause any type of heat within WWE, I think. Danimal, do you think a Gunther face turn is maybe? Do you think a Gunther face turn or maybe a tag run with Ludwig could save him if he loses Saturday? I think he needs brand new direction. I think he's done with all he could do as a heel. Yeah, I've talked about this before. With Gunther, I think it's difficult to really make him a face because he's such a classic foreign heel. And I think that could work if the story was right, man. And that's my biggest issue, man. Like WWE and stories, they don't get along. Like WWE and stories aren't really compatible nowadays, unfortunately. Very unfortunately. If you give me a good story behind it, give me some time to develop. Give us some time to develop. I think anything's possible once you give it time to develop, for sure. But just a random turn on a Raw that leads to a match 2 weeks later, no, man, absolutely not. No. Yeah, I think he's certainly maximized his heel stock seemingly. Another thing would be to bring back Imperium, which I think losing Imperium has hurt him tremendously because it doesn't make him feel like a menacing leader. It loses his aura. He's just by himself. I think that's really hurting him. Which is the reason why I don't think he should lose, because he can't afford to be hurt anymore. That would be a horrible idea. I really don't have a problem with Goldberg. I think WWE didn't do him any good with his booking and coming in, getting title shots his last couple of matches. Yeah, the last couple of matches that Yeah, just booking him into title runs and stuff like that, just coming in and say, "Hey, I want a title match, Roman. I want a title match, Fiend. I want a title match, Kevin Owens." Like, I'm not a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of that. I think that's one. I mean, and this is someone who's a Goldberg fan. I don't think that was. I don't think that was a good idea. Nah, I don't think it was a good idea. The Brock thing made perfect sense. It was fine. It wasn't for a title, and eventually became for a title. Again, it made sense, but you already had momentum with that. Like the Brock Goldberg thing, if it was supposed to be a one off, and there's been rumors over the years that it was supposed to be a one off, um, but it had so much momentum, man, that it worked. It worked. You had the elimination from the Royal Rumble too, and fans were in it. Fans were into it, man. So why not make more money off of it? I think that's a great idea. I mean, again, this is business. Make your money. Make your money. You made money off of Survivor Series, Goldberg Brock. Oh man, uh, this well isn't dry yet. Okay, let's make more money. Cool. Let's let's extend this to WrestleMania. Cool. Sounds good. People can complain all they want, man, but the marquee is Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar of that year. Even now, the marquee's still Goldberg, man, for sure. Last night, Vince Russo had me crying with his Raw take. Funny, funny. Isn't the WWE blacklist only Benoit and Vince McMahon? No, I think if you keep combing through a lot of other names, I wouldn't even say Vince McMahon's blacklisted. I wouldn't even say that for sure. Let's see here. What else we got? Of course, hashtag Ask Doc. How do you cope in life with your back in so much pain? I would just give up. The Lord, man, the Lord for real, and support. Definitely support. Would you say to Mercedes Moné, Sasha Bank? Sasha Bank is blacklisted, well, at least to the IWC. No, I wouldn't say it. She's probably canceled. But as far as just an irredeemable, at least for now, an irredeemable reputation assassination, basically. No, I don't think Sasha Banks is that. I think I heard that she's doing like TikToks with her boyfriend, the Beast something in AEW. That's not helping her case. But she's a heel. I think here's the thing. Only thing Sasha Banks needs is a good face turn that makes sense. The fans will love her again, man. The fans will love her again. Axe Doc. I would also say Vince Russo may be blacklisted by the IWC, will never let go of the WCW things, but won't give him credit for the Attitude Era. Fair point, but I don't think he's blacklisted by the IWC too. It's a cool thing. It's a cool factor to dislike Vince Russo, but him being a good friend of mine, man, super cool dude, one of the nicest and most supportive people that you could know. I'll never forget, man, that Vince was super supportive when I got COVID back in 2021. Yeah, back in 2021 when I got COVID. Actually, the WrestleMania, I was supposed to be shipped off. I was supposed to be flown into Tampa to do media, and when I'm doing media, like it's a lot of work throughout that weekend. But honestly, the most thing that I look forward to the most when I do media in different places, when I'm being flown in, is going to a different city for the first time. I love first. I love going to restaurants for the first time. I love traveling to cities for the first time. I love first when it comes to that stuff. And I'll never forget that, crazy enough, this was nuts. The day before I was supposed to, I got stuff ready. I got my bags ready. I was supposed to leave the morning before. It was a Thursday. I was supposed to leave Thursday morning. The Wednesday night I had to go to the ER, found out that I had COVID. And it sucked, man. I was like, oh no, this is horrible. I had some people to support me throughout the way. And definitely, and Vince was one of those people, man, that would text me and check on me and see how I'm doing. And he was, it was, I'll never forget it, man. Really, really cool dude. I have persuaded Vince to become a Ohio State fan. So he'll send me text of different Ohio State paraphernalia that he'll buy from the thrift store. I mean, people need to know the heart of Vince Russo, and then they'll realize that the IWC is completely clueless and ignorant of making personal judgments on someone who they didn't agree with his writing style. Like I've told Vince, and I've said it publicly. I didn't agree with Vince, all of Vince's writing style and attitude. Like I didn't agree with it, but at the same time, like, am I going to make some type of character assassination or value judgment on not agreeing with someone's pro wrestling booking style? Huh? That's a very petulant mentality to have. I mean, like, it's just a weird thing to do. As a pundit, as a critic, I break down things psychologically from a weekly basis when it comes to actually critiquing the product and the psychological gaps that we see right now with the products. So that's my job. That's my role. Like, Sportskeeda know that I'm a psychology doctor. They value that tremendously. They take my professional expertise. I'm a PhD in psychology. So how does that, they value what I have to say when it comes to the psychology of pro wrestling and how that works. And so they appreciate that. So that's why they pay me the big bucks. And so, but at the same time, when it comes to like personal relationships, or this guy sucks because they're booking him wrong, like, huh? I don't know them. I don't know these people. Like, what? That would be a weird thing to say. And so I think making a judgment based on a disagreeing on someone's booking style and throwing in homonyms at the person. Okay, that's a lot of bit immature. Now, if this person is trying to sabotage, the industry, or beginning to, or trying to maliciously sabotage or destroy the industry, okay, critics have said that, but it's like, again, I say, wouldn't it hurt his bank account if he's trying to sabotage an industry? Like, why would someone who's making a bunch of money try to destroy the very thing that's giving them a lot of money? Like, make that make sense to me. And it will take a very, very long and hard time to make sense of that to me. And I don't even have the time to listen to you. So that is that. So not blacklisted. Just, there's a list of people who don't agree with him, and that's fine. There's a list of people who don't agree with me. That's fine. So, hey, it's no one in this world has everybody who agrees with them. That's the reason why you spend your time making sure that your inner circle, the ones who cheer you on, those are the ones that you look to for feedback. Look into the IWC for feedback. I have, I'll say this. Looking to the IWC for feedback is it's like looking to a vegan for steak advice, steak tasting advice. It's not going to happen. It doesn't correlate. There's no match. And so you have to be very, very careful to who you seek feedback from. And it's like the IWC is going to IWC. They're going to blacklist people because, it makes them feel better in their souls temporarily. And then they yearn for something else. Simple as that. But I know for me and mine here at the PMP Nation, y'all rocks with me. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to share this. Be sure to like. And be sure to comment. What is a time in your life that you feel like you were blacklisted? And how were you able to recover from that? Your comments, your likes, your shares, your subscriptions, all that pushes up my algorithms. And I really, really appreciate that. All right. Going to the Patreon, doing some predictions, answering some questions. Hop over there. Patreon.com/pancakes and power Sams. Hope you enjoyed the class. I did. And so until next week, enjoy your week of wrestling. God bless. And always remember, I do it for you. Have a good night, everybody. Shalom.